Welcome to Tourism Grade 12, where we are going to be discussing the topic travel documents. So we will start by outlining the travel documents which are required when someone is traveling internationally for the business of tourism or for any other purposes. So the first travel document which we need to discuss is the passport. Then immediately after the passport, we'll look at the visa. We'll look also at the International Driver's Permit, which is abbreviated as IDP. Then we also have the health certificate. Then as we are doing that, we are also going to look at what the definition of a passport, We're also going to be looking at the requirements for obtaining a passport. In addition to that, we are also going to be looking at the visa, what it is, the requirements of obtaining a visa. Then also, how does one complete an application for either a passport or a visa? So we'll also talk about Form B173 and also the B183, which are relevant forms which need to be filled in when you're applying for the respective documents. Then we are also going to look at the health certificate. What is a health certificate? Then we also look at the yellow fever certificate. In addition to that, I would look at the International Driver's Permit. We need to look at the definition of an International Driver's Permit and also for the requirements of obtaining one. So let me start by outlining that technology has made the world very, very small. The world is now referred to as the global village. So what happens is in one country or continent has a significant impact on the rest of the world. So the world of travel has changed due to technological advancement. It has become easier to travel from one country to the next. To control the movement of people to and from countries, countries have put up borders through which this movement can be managed. One is expected to produce certain documents. So these documents which are required to be produced is what we are going to be discussing today. That is the aim of the lessons. The certain documents which are required when one is crossing an international boundary or an international border. So one is expected to produce certain documents to show why one needs to travel to that country and if one has obtained permission to do so. So another thing which is required when you're crossing borders, you need to seek permission. You need to be granted permission to do so from the authorities of the country one wishes to visit. The authorities also have to determine if the visitor to their country is not a carrier. So another reason why movement of people is controlled is to control the spread of some diseases and also to curb the spread of the trafficking of illegal substances such as drugs. So just to outline this, we need to focus on the reasons why people are required to produce certain documents, and we also need to outline why authorities are so concerned with the movement of certain goods. So we also need to revisit grade 10. You studied about tourists and their reasons for travel. So based on the introduction above and also on your grade 10 knowledge of tourists and travel, answer the questions that follow. So what I'm going to start with, a baseline assessment whereby we will be testing yourself the information that you learned prior to. So the first thing is travel documents baseline assessment. Assessment activity number 1, baseline learners, individual or written. So in this case, we are going to do it orally. So the first thing is write or give the name of a place you would like to travel to. So here, you just write randomly any place which you would want to visit. So for these purposes, I can give you just as an example, you can say New York. You would want to travel to New York. So you choose any city of your choice. So in order to travel to New York, we need to mention the travel documents that you would need to travel to that destination. So in order for you to go to New York, let's bear in mind that New York is located in the United States of America. It is not located in South Africa. So whenever you cross an international border, it means that you need a passport. You need a passport That is the first document which you need. Then in addition to that, you also need something which is known as a visa. You also need, secondly, a visa in order to be in New York. Then perhaps if you want to drive in New York, you also need what is called an IDP, or which is known as the International Driver's Permit. So these are the documents which you would need when you want to travel to New York. Then let's go to the next bullet. Give the areas. I'm going to highlight or I'm going to underline the part areas or points you will be required to present your travel documents. So in this case, you will be required to produce your travel documents at the immigration counter. So the first point is at the immigration counter, at immigration. So at the immigration counter, you will be required to produce your passport and also your visa. So usually the immigration counter, you find it at an airport, or you can find it at any gateway. Let's bear in mind that a gateway is a place, or it is a point of entry into a country or out of a country. So you are required to produce your passport and your visa at an airport or at an international gateway. In addition to that, you might be required by traffic police to produce your IDP. That is if you are driving. This only applies to those who will be driving in that destination. Then moving on to question number 4, give the common name of officials who would allow or refuse you to enter the country. So the officials who have the rights to allow you or to refuse you entry into a country are known as immigration officials. Let's bear in mind that immigration officials are concerned with the movement of people into a country and out of a country. So the people or the officials who are responsible for that are called immigration officials. Then besides immigration officials, we also have another department which is known as the Customs and Excise Department. These are responsible for monitoring the movement of goods into a country and also outside a country. So we have the Customs and Excise Department as well. Then the next question reads, give reasons that will inform their decision to allow or to refuse your entry into a country. So they have the right to allow you or to refuse you entry into a country because of the following reasons. For example, when a traveler lacks the required documents, when a traveler lacks the required documents, such as a passport and a visa, they may not allow you to enter the country which you need to visit. So when a traveler lacks the required documents. In addition to that, the documents are supposed to be valid because the documents which are issued, you have a certain expiry date. They have a certain expiry date. So upon expiry, those documents cease to be valid, or they will no longer be valid. So another reason is that you might be carrying expired documents. Expired documents are not recognized. So whenever you have an expired document, they may not recognize you. So expired documents are not recognized. So that is the other reason why they might refuse you entry. In addition to that, they might refuse you entry if you are carrying illegal substances. When you are carrying illegal substances, e.g., narcotics or drugs, they might refuse you entry again. So just to go over this again, so the question says, give reasons that will inform their decision to allow or to refuse you entry into their country. So I'm going through the points again. When a traveler lacks the required documents, when you lack a passport, when you lack a visa, they may not allow you to enter that particular country. Then when you're also carrying expired documents, these are not recognized, so they would not allow you entry into that particular country. Then also carrying illegal substances such as narcotics or drugs, which are considered to be prohibited in that country, will make you undesirable in that particular country. So moving on to the next part, the next slide. So the documents, I now have them here, and we also have their images. So for 2.1, the first document which we would want to discuss, it is the passport. So whenever you talk about travel documents, you need to indicate that it is a valid passport. It simply means that the date has not reached its expiry date. So whenever you mention any travel document, make sure that you state that that travel document is a valid travel document. So this is basically how a passport looks like. Mostly it will be green in color unless perhaps it's a diplomatic passport. So this is the outer cover of the passport. Here we have the South African coat of arms to show that the Republic of South Africa is the issuer of this particular passport. So it has been issued by the Republic of South Africa. Then we also have the Afrikaans version of the same thing, the passport. This is how a passport looks like from outside. That is the outer cover of a passport. Then moving on to the inner cover, which usually they scan when you get to an international gateway or when you get to an airport. The immigration officials would actually scan this passport. So we need to look at, we need to have a look at the main features of a passport. So the first thing which we are going to highlight, we are going to highlight the photograph or the image. There is an image or the photo of the traveler or of the bearer. So the first thing or the first important thing which we find on a passport, we do have the photo. Then in addition to that, on this other side, we also have the authority which issued the passport. By authority in this case, we are referring to the Republic of South Africa. So it means that this passport has been issued out by the Republic of South Africa. Then we also have passport type. In this case, this is just an example, so it is a specimen. Then we also have the name also appears there. The name also appears there. In addition to that, we also have the citizenship. Is this person a South African citizen or not? So we also have the citizenship, which appears there. Then there's also the bearer's signature. There is the signature for the bearer as well. In addition to that, we also have things like the date of birth on the passport. The DOB appears there, the date of birth of the passport. Then in addition to this, we have the name of the bearer, and we also have the surname of the bearer. Then we also have the authority, that is the Department of Home Affairs. Authority, the South African Department of Home Affairs. Then we have the issue date and expiry date. In this case, we have two things. We have the issue date and expiry. So bear in mind that the day when you applied for your passport, it also appears there, or the day when a passport was issued out also appears there. Then also the expiry date, when it's going to cease to be valid, also appears there. In addition to that, we also have this section is the section which will be scanned by the immigration official. So when they insert it into a scanning device, it will read the information of the bearer of that particular passport. So that is how a passport looks like. The outer cover appears on the left-hand side. Then the inner side, which bears the information, appears on the right-hand side. So moving on to the definition of a passport. So basically, a passport is a legal document. It is a legal document which allows you to be in a particular country. So a passport is a legal, let's highlight this. This is very important. We need to have a clear definition of what a passport is. So I'm going to highlight this part. All right, just to emphasize it, we are going to say that a passport is a legal document that allows a person to live or enter another country. So you cannot leave a country without a passport. You are required to carry a passport when you leave a country and you enter another country. So all persons crossing a border, the moment you cross a border, you must have this document. So in other words, we can actually say that a passport is a compulsory document when it comes to international travel. It is the first document which is required when you are traveling internationally. It is, therefore, in that case, it is a compulsory travel document. It is a compulsory travel document. Then secondly, we need to move on to the next part. Who issues the passport? Which authority issues the passport? So in this case, a South African passport is issued by the Department of Home Affairs. When it comes to South Africa, the Department of Home Affairs is the one which is responsible for issuing out a passport. It can also be abbreviated as DHA. The Department of Home Affairs is the department or the government department which is responsible for issuing out a passport. So that is the issuing authority, or the authority which is authorized to issue a passport is the Department of Home Affairs. Then, in addition to that, we must also bear in mind that application for a passport must be done in person in order for the Home Affairs official to verify the legality and the validity of your identity, and also to verify your photograph. So some of the things which they require when you are applying for a passport include a photograph and also your fingerprints. Yes, you can download and complete the application form online, but after doing that, the Home Affairs official needs to verify the legality and validity of your identity. These are things which they need to verify using your biometrics, that is your fingerprints, and also they need a photograph of yourself. So when you apply for a passport, the Home Affairs official needs to verify your validity and the validity of your identity. Then they also verify the photograph. In addition to that, they will actually also take your fingerprints during the process of passport application. So that is a passport in a nutshell. It is a legal document that allows a person to live and enter another country. So all persons crossing a border must have this particular document. The issuing authority is known as the Department of Home Affairs. Then a passport can be or must be applied in person in order for Home Affairs to verify the legality and the validity of your identity. And they also verify your photograph. They also take your fingerprints. That is the first document. So now let us move on to the next part, which is 2.1.1. In this part, we are going to look at the types of passports. We have different passports with different features. So the first type of a passport is known as a regular tourist passport. This is a regular tourist passport which appears on the first block there. So a regular passport, South African passport, is issued to applicants who are 16 years and older. So it is only for applicants who are above the age of 16 years. So its validity period is 10 years. It is actually valid up to a period of 10 years. In addition to that, we also have a child passport. So child passports are issued to children who are below the age of 15 years. So a child passport is the next port of call. Child passports are issued to children who are below, who are 15 years and below. So these passports are not actually renewable. When you are now above the age of 16, you have to turn and you have to apply for the regular tourist passport. Then the third category, which we look at, is known as the temporary passports. So when it comes to the temporary passport, it was discontinued in 2014, and it has been since replaced by a new document, which is known as the Emergency Travel Certificate, which you can apply for in times of in times of emergency or when there is an emergency need. Then, in addition to that, we also have what we call an official passport. An official passport is that passport which is issued to officials which work in the government or officials who are attached to the government, to government institutions who have to travel on official business. I think you are aware that different government officials travel outside of the country on official government business or on official state business. For example, when a minister wants to travel abroad to attend a certain meeting, they need to be on an official passport. So it allows government officials attached to the government to travel on official government or state business. So its validity, it is valid up to a period of 5 years. Then let's move on to the fifth type. We also have a document for travel purposes. So a document for travel purposes, it is for foreigners who have permanent residence in South Africa who cannot obtain travel documents from their own countries to show that they are lawfully staying in South Africa. So this type of document is also valid for 5 years. So as for now, we have outlined different types of passports. Then in addition to that, I can also add the sixth one, which is called a maxi passport. It is called a maxi passport. You can also include it as number 6, a maxi tourist passport. All right. When it comes to this one, a maxi tourist passport, it has more pages as compared to the regular passport. It has more pages as compared to the regular passport. In addition to that, it is used by frequent travelers. It is actually used by frequent travelers, people who are always traveling. Hence, it has more pages. It is used by frequent travelers who travel on a frequent basis. Unlike the Max tourist passport, the regular passport is used by occasional travelers. It is used by people who travel occasionally. Then this one is used by people who travel frequently. So it is called a maxi tourist passport. It has more pages so that officials can stamp or put visas on the several pages during the frequent travels. So that is 2.1.1. That is the different types of passports which we have. Just as a recap, we have the regular tourist passport, child passport, temporary passport, official passport. We also have the documentation for travel purposes. Then we also have the number 6 maxi tourist passport, which has more pages as compared to the regular passport. It is issued by frequent travelers. Then I can also add another 7th one. The 7th one is known as a diplomat passport. There is also a 7th one, which is known as a diplomatic passport. A diplomatic passport, it is issued to diplomats It is issued to diplomats. Then the definition of a diplomat it is a government official who represents the country in another country, who represents South Africa in another country, in a foreign country. For example, an ambassador is also known as a diplomat. So a diplomat should travel using a diplomatic passport. It is not for ordinary citizens, but it is for special people who work in the government who represent South Africa in foreign countries who are known as diplomats. Those are issued with a diplomatic passport. Then in addition to that, on 2.1.2, we also need to do a recap of the information found on a passport. So the visuals appear there. The information, we actually have 12 categories of information which appear on a passport. So just to recap on that, we have the photo, a photo of the passport holder. We actually have a photo of the passport holder. A photo is the first thing which we need to include there. There is the photo of the passport holder. Then we also have the type of passport. Is it a diplomatic passport? Is it a regular passport? Is it a tourist maxi passport? Then we also have the issuing country. The issuing country, which country is issuing that particular passport. Then we also have the passport number. The passport number is also used as your form of identification when you're in a foreign country. In a foreign country, instead of using your national ID number, you use your passport number as your identification. Then also we have the names and the surnames. They also appear there, the names and the surnames. Then we also have the nationality of the holder. Which nationality does the holder belong to? Then we also have the gender, the birth date, and also the birthplace, the issue date, the expiry date, and also the issuing authority. So these different features, they appear on different, they also appear here. The photo, number one, the photo, we have it here. This is the photo. Then the type of passport appears on number two. It is indicated here. The issuing country, number three, it is indicated here. Then we also have the passport number, which is number four, which is indicated on this side, which is a barcoded, it is actually a barcoded number. Then in addition to that, we also have the names and the surnames, which appear here on number 5. Then we also have the nationality, which appears there, the nationality which appears here. Then we also have the gender. It appears on section 7. In this case, this is a female passport holder. Then we also have the birth date. It appears here. The birth date. Then there's also the birthplace is stated on number 9. The birthplace would appear on number 9. Then we also have the issue date. The issue date appears on section 10. It appears on section 10 there. Then we also have the expiry date, which appears on section 11. Then we also have the issuing authority, which is the Department of Home Affairs. So these are the main features or the information which is found on a passport. So we have 12 main features which are found on a passport. Now moving on to the next type of document. The next type of a document is known as the visa. So a visa, by definition, it is an endorsement on a passport that gives a traveler, it gives a traveler permission to be in another country for a specific period and for a specific reason. So by definition, I'm going to repeat, it is an endorsement on a passport that gives a traveler permission to be in another country for a specific period and for a specific reason. So I need to emphasize something. Endorsement, this is permission, official permission Endorsement, we can also say that it is permission on a passport that gives a traveler permission to be in another country. So this permission can be in the form of a sticker. Visas can be in the form of a sticker, or it can be a stamp that endorses that a traveler has been given permission to be in another country for a specific period and for a specific reason. So that is the definition of a visa. In addition to that, a visa also states the period. How long are you going to stay in that particular country? It actually states the time or the period. How long you are going to stay in that particular country. Is it for a month? Is it for 30 days? Is it for 90 days? Or it is for a period of 5 years? So a visa also states that particular thing. Then it also states the specific reason. The reason can be for work. You can be in another country for work, for tourism reasons, or for tourism, or you can be there for business or any other reasons, or you can be there for study. So there are different types of visas: work, tourism, business, or study visas. So the second bullet reads, a visa does not guarantee entry to the country. An immigration official at customs will then determine if you are allowed to enter. So carrying a visa is not the final, it is not the final thing. You also need to be verified, or your visa needs to be verified by an immigration official. An immigration official needs to verify your visa, and also they will check your luggage at customs to determine whether you're allowed to enter into a country. So yes, you need a visa on your passport, but in addition to that, it needs to be verified by an immigration official. Then you also need to go through a procedure which is known as customs in order for you to be allowed to enter into another country. Then where do you obtain a visa? So a visa can be obtained from the country's embassy. It is obtained from the country's embassy that you wish to visit. For example, if you need a United States of America visa, a USA visa, you need to visit or you need to apply it at the USA Embassy in South Africa. You need to apply it at the USA Embassy. An embassy is an office of a foreign country in another country. An embassy is basically an office of a foreign country in another country. For example, countries such as the United States of America, the UK, Italy, and several others, they have their offices in South Africa. It can be in Pretoria or in Johannesburg, which facilitates the application of visas for people who want to go to those particular or those respective countries. So basically, this is what a visa looks like. It can be in the form of a stamp or in the form of a what? In the form of a sticker. For example, in this case, we have a South African visa, which is on a traveler's what? Passport. So this is how a visa basically looks like. It is put on one of the pages of the passport which you have as a stamp or as a sticker. Then we move on to the requirements of obtaining a visa. So the first port of call or the first requirement is that you must have a valid, acceptable passport. Your passport should be valid. By valid, we are saying that it should be or it should not have reached its expiry date. So a valid, acceptable passport. In addition to that, the passport should also be what? It should also be in good condition. You find that this is actually a document. It can also get worn out, whereby certain information might not be visible. Perhaps the photograph will cease to be visible, or perhaps the barcode cannot be scanned. So under such circumstances, they will not issue you with a what? With a passport. So make sure that your passport is not defaced, and also make sure that it is valid. It has not reached its expiry date. In addition to that, it can also be a travel document. For those without passport, they can use an alternative. It can be an emergency travel document as well. Then, in order for you to be granted a visa, you must have sufficient funds. You must have proof of funds to show that you won't become a burden to the country which you are visiting. You must show that you have sufficient funds. In addition to that, you must have a return on onward ticket. This is a ticket which shows that you intend to travel back to your country of origin. You have been there, you have visited a foreign country on business, for work, or for tourism, but you have a return ticket which shows that you want to return back to your country of origin. In addition to that, it also requires a letter from employer. That is if you are going for the purpose of what? Of business. Then your passport should also have 2 unused pages on your passport. Then in addition to that, you can also you have a yellow fever certificate, and also you must show proof of medical cover in addition to that. Then also, there should be 2 unused pages in your passport. Then medical cover in the event that you become ill, you would not become a burden to the country which you are visiting. Instead, you would use your medical cover to get medical attention. Then the compulsory. We also have for international travelers who enter the country temporarily, they are granted a period of or a maximum of 3 months. That is for international travelers. Then you also apply only 3 months in advance, which is reviewed at an embassy or consulate. The officer eligible to enter, also they review that. Then the background check on the person, no criminal record. So these are some of the things you're supposed to apply your passport perhaps 3 months in advance before you, your visa, 3 months in advance before you go to the place which you want to visit. Then they also do a background check. Does that person have a criminal record? So they also do this background check as well. Then another thing, we also have the types of visas, the different types of visas. So the first type of visa, which appears there, it is known as a transit visa. It is known as a transit visa. It is used to pass through a country to your final destination. So when you're passing through a country to your final destination, you need to carry a transit visa. For example, if we have a South African tourist who needs to go to China, but there are no direct flights from OR Tambo International Airport to China, they can go through Dubai. So you can leave, then you go to Dubai. You can leave OR Tambo International Airport, that is Johannesburg. Then you get to Dubai. Then from Dubai, you go to Beijing. So in order for you to do a stopover in Dubai, you need to carry what is called a transit visa, which is used to pass through a country to your final destination. So that is a transit visa. The second type of visa, which you also need to discuss, is known as the tourist visa. So a tourist visa is issued for a limited period of time for leisure travel. So a tourist visa is for those people who are coming for a short period of time for leisure travel. They are not here to stay permanently. They are just here for a short period of time, just to have leisure or just to enjoy themselves. Then we also have a working holiday visa. The holder can work in a country for a precise period of time. So the working holiday visa is also another type of visa. So this one is a work type of a visa. Then we also have those who are going through their studies. For example, if a student wants to study in a foreign country, they need to carry what is called a student visa. It allows you to study, the purpose is study in the specific country. Then the next one is also known as a medical visa for those who need to receive medical treatment or letter from, for this one, a letter from a medical practitioner or a doctor will be required in order for you to qualify for that. Then the next type of visa is known as the Schengen visa. So the Schengen visa allows the holder to travel in 25 Schengen visa countries using one visa. So it allows a holder to travel in the European Union. In the countries, there are 25 countries which are part of the European Union. So it will allow you to travel in those countries with one visa. These countries came to an agreement that they should adopt a common visa for their countries. So, for example, a Schengen visa can allow you to be in France. It can allow you to go to Sweden. It can allow you to go to Spain. It can allow you to go to Belgium. It can also allow you to go to Spain on one visa. So that is a Schengen visa. We also have the diplomatic visa, which is issued for official business or for accreditation. It is issued to diplomats. Then we also have the official visa, which is issued to certain officials who are working for government officials. So what we have then on display, we have a visitor's visa. So this is a visitor's visa, which is issued by the Republic of South Africa. So the first thing, it has information on the issuing authority. So in this case, it is issued by the Republic of what? Of South Africa. It is known as a visitor's visa. Then what appears there? We have the name, which appears there. Then that is the name of the traveler. Then the passport number of the traveler should also appear there. Then we also have the conditions. Authority to proceed to the Republic of South Africa to report to an immigration officer at a port of entry has been granted by the Minister of Home Affairs, issued at. This also states the place where the visa has been issued at. So in this case, it has been issued in the United States of America, that is in Washington. Then the date of issue is, it is actually the 10th of August, that is in 2005. Then it expires on the 9th of November in 2005. Then the conditions. The conditions are that the person is supposed to visit for a period of 5 days. So the person should not exceed a period of 5 days. Then they are allowed to go in and out of the country multiple times during their period of what? Of stay. In addition to that, they are supposed to attend the 17th conference of the International Society for Environmental Epidemiology between the 13th and the 16th of what? Of September. These are the conditions, or this is the purpose of what? Of visit. Then in addition to that, we have the signature of the Minister of Home Affairs. Then we also have a barcode which can be scanned by the immigration official. So in a nutshell, this is how a visa looks like. It can be a sticker or it can be a stamp which will be put on one of the pages of the what? Of the passport. So moving on to the next thing, we also have the third document, which is known as the International Driver's Permit. It is known as the IDP. Let me start by explaining that when you drive in a foreign country, some countries require you to carry an international driver's permit because there are different rules and regulations when it comes to traffic in different countries. So by definition, it is a legal document. So we underline the term legal document that confirms that the license that the driver already holds in their own country. So it is an official document that endorses or it confirms the license that the driver already has in their own country. So having an ordinary driver's license in a foreign country is not enough. You also need an international driver's permit, which shows that your driver's license is actually a valid document. So it also provides translation. When someone is carrying an IDP, it actually provides translation of the South African driver's license in so many languages. It provides translation of the driver's license in so many languages. So it helps a tourist to rent a vehicle and obtain travel insurance. When you go into a foreign country, when you're carrying an IDP, you can be allowed to rent a vehicle or to obtain what is known as travel insurance. So the first thing which I will discuss, who issues it? So it is issued by the Automobile Association. This is the issuing authority. It is issued, this is the issuing authority. When you want an IDP, you go to the Automobile Association of South Africa. So this is the issuing authority. That is the starting point. Another thing which I need to emphasize, this is voluntary. It is only for those people who want to drive when they get to a foreign country. It is actually voluntary. So this is what an IDP looks like. Then in addition to that, it endorses the license which you already which you already have. Then it is valid for a certain period of time. Then the benefits are that you can drive in a foreign country. Then it translates the South African driver's license in a foreign country. And it also allows you to rent a vehicle or to obtain travel insurance. That is basically the information when it comes to an international driver's permit. Then we go to the next part, how to obtain one. What are the procedures when you want to obtain an IDP? Here are the procedures. So we are going to go through them bullet by bullet. So the first thing which we need to highlight is that when you apply for an IDP, you need to apply at an AAA accredited sales branch. So the issued authority is AAA, that is the Automobile Association. Then, having done that, you fill the IDP application form. Then the cost of the IDP, it changes from year to year, but during the time of the press of this, it was at 265, but it changes from time to time. Then you must submit 2 ID photographs. Must submit 2 ID photographs of yourself. Then you are supposed to submit a valid South African driver's license as well. So those are the procedures of obtaining an international driver's license. Apply for IDP with AAA sales branch, fill in an IDP application form, then the cost of the IDP, that is the payment which you would pay, that is actually 265, submit 2 photographs, carry a valid South African driver's license and a credit card in credit card format. So that is basically the IDP. Then the next certificate or the next document is known as the health certificate. So this is what it looks like. World Health Organization, then International Certificate of Vaccination. Then this is the front part. Then this is the back part. Here we have the name of the person, the date when the vaccination was received, the citizenship or the nationality of the country, signature of the person. Then we also have the disease in which the disease which he or she was vaccinated against, which is yellow fever, on which date here, the vaccine, yellow fever, type of vaccine, and other details there. So by definition, a health certificate proves that a tourist has taken necessary health precautions. So let's highlight it, the key thing there. It proves that the tourist has taken the necessary health precautions. So it can be provided by a doctor or a travel clinic that has administered the necessary treatment to the tourist. So the person or the authority responsible for issuing a health certificate is a doctor or a travel clinic that has administered the vaccine or any necessary treatment to the tourist. For example, a yellow fever certificate given to tourists inoculated against yellow fever. People who have received a vaccine against yellow fever would receive a yellow fever certificate. So that is also a document which is required. So we need to summarize, or we need to do a recap of today's lesson. So by summary, the question reads, what documents does a tourist need to visit another country? So the first one, which is compulsory, is a valid passport. A visa is also of importance. An IDP or international driver's license, that is voluntary. It is not compulsory. It is optional. You can choose to have it or you can choose not to have it. Then a valid international certificate showing compulsory vaccination in yellow fever and cholera areas. This will be valid. This will be compulsory when you are visiting countries where cholera or yellow fever are prevalent. Then the requirements are for tourist traveling between countries. A tourist must comply with the regulations of their home countries. So first, they must comply with the regulations of their home countries. That is the starting point. Then they should also comply with the regulations of a foreign country. So this applies home and abroad. So you start by complying with the regulations of the country which you are coming from. Then you are also supposed to comply with the regulations of the country you are visiting. Then travel documents to be studied. All right, travel documents to be studied. Those we have included them there. Valid passport, valid visa, international driver's license, then a health certificate, then also comply with local regulations and also comply with the regulations of the country which you are supposed to visit. Then in addition to that, we need to carry out assessment activity number 2, multiple choice questions on travel document. So I will start with the first question. The type of visa applied for when traveling to European Union countries. So this type of visa, if you recall from the previous slide which we had, it is known as the Schengen visa. It is known as the Schengen visa. It allows you to be in about to travel across several European countries, European Union countries. It allows you to travel across several European Union countries, about 26 countries now, about 25 countries, excluding the UK, which moved out from this arrangement. So that is the Schengen visa. Then moving on to the next question, which is 2.1.2, an IDP is required to, when an IDP, that is the full format is International Driver's Permit, it is required in order for you to hire a vehicle at certain foreign destination. So the correct answer here would be C. IDP. It allows you to hire a vehicle at certain foreign destinations. Then moving on to the next one, 2.1.3, a health certificate for travel-related diseases. A health certificate for travel-related diseases. So the health certificate, usually it is issued for diseases such as yellow fever and cholera. So in this case, we only have what? A yellow fever. So C will be our correct what? Will be our correct answer. Then the visa grants a tourist permission to stop over in a country for a short while continuing to his or her final destination. So this type of visa, it is known as the transit visa, which allows you to temporarily stop in another country before you go to a foreign destination. For example, if you are traveling from South Africa to China, you might find that there might not be direct flights from South Africa to China. So you decide to pass through Dubai. So in order for you to be allowed in Dubai, you need to produce what is called a transit visa. Then moving on to 2.1.5, a South African applying for this type of travel document needs to submit a South African identity document and a completed application form and pay a fee. So when you're applying for a passport, you need to submit the South African identity document, a completed application form, and you also pay a certain fee. This is the correct answer, will be a passport. Then 2.1.6, the following travel document is issued by the consulate or the embassy of a destination country. This type of document is known as the visa, which will be C. So our correct answer in this case will be the visa. So that is question 2.1.6. Moving on to 2.1.7. This passport is issued by the Department of Home Affairs to a state employee. So our keyword there is state employee. State employee is someone who works for the what? For the government. So it is issued to a state employee who will travel internationally for government business. So the other reason why they are traveling is for what? For government business. If you recall well, we said that this is known as a what? It is known as an official passport. It is issued for a government employee who will travel internationally for government business. It is known as an official passport. Then a visa is issued by the following institution. In this case, a visa is issued by the Department of Home Affairs. The Department of Home Affairs is the one responsible for issuing visas. 2.1.9, tourists stopping over in a country on their way to the other countries will require a visa, which is known as a transit visa. So C will be our correct answer. Moving on to 2.1.10, this travel document is not compulsory, but is recommended if you would want to hire a vehicle during an overseas trip. So this type of visa, this type of document is known as the valid international driver's permit. So that is the first activity, which is out of 10. Then moving on to the next activity. This is assessment activity number 3. Perhaps you might assess yourself on how far you are going to go on this one. So the first one, I'll read the questions, then I'll provide the answers later. Give a name of a travel-related document that fits the description below. So for each description, we are going to give the name of the travel document. The compulsory document showing proof of preventative measures against travel-related disease. This is known as a health certificate. So I'm going to write health certificate. It is known as the health certificate. That is 3.1.1. Then the second question reads, the travel documents containing the entry and exit stamps of countries or cities are visited. The travel document containing the entry and the exit stamps of countries visited. The stamps are put on a travel document which is known as a passport. Passport. A passport contains the entry and exit stamps of countries or cities visited. Then 3.1.3, the document on which a seat number appears and which allows you access to the aircraft. This is known as the what? The boarding pass. This is known as the what? As the boarding pass. It also tells you, it allows you access to the aircraft, and it also shows you where the seat number appears. The travel document issued by the Automobile Association is known as IDP, abbreviated, but in full, it's known as the International Driver's Permit. It is known as the International Driver's Permit, IDP or International Driver's Permit. Then 3.1.5, the document issued by an embassy that allows entry into a destination or country. It is known as a valid visa. It is known as the valid visa. So which brings us to the end of assessment activity number 3. Then now moving on to assessment activity 4, a story about undocumented migrants in South Africa. So we are going to start by reading a case study. Illegal immigration to South Africa refers to the migration of foreign nationals to South Africa without authorization of the South African authorities. A range of estimates of the size of the population of irregular migrants in South Africa exists, but these have been described as inaccurate. The use of the term irregular as opposed to illegal is accepted in academic terminology. No accurate estimates of the number of undocumented migrants living in South Africa exist. Estimates that have been published vary widely. According to statistics, South Africa's 2011 census, 6.2 million foreigners live in South Africa. 6.2 million foreigners live in South Africa. And the organization's 2015 estimate places the number of undocumented migrants between 1.2 million and 1.5 million undocumented migrants. A large number of Zimbabweans have fled to South Africa as a result of instability in Zimbabwe, with many living as undocumented migrants in South Africa. These immigrants come from all over the world, the majority coming from countries such as Pakistan, India, China, Zimbabwe, DRC, Mozambique, Nigeria, Ghana, Lesotho, and Swaziland, etc. So the first question, list at least travel documents that travelers from the above mentioned countries should have to enter South Africa. So the first thing which they need a passport. In fact, let me actually state that they need valid passports. It's not just a passport, but the passport also needs to be what? Within the validity period. So the first document is known as a valid passport. Then they also need a valid visa. So these are the two answers for the first question. Valid passport, valid visa. Those are the two documents which are required from travelers from the above mentioned countries if they want to enter South Africa. Then 4.2, explain why certain countries require visas as part of their entry requirements. So certain countries, they require visas in order to explain why certain countries require visas as part of their entry requirements. To verify whether travelers are not undesirable. When you talk about undesirable people, we are talking about people with negative criminal backgrounds. So to verify whether travelers are not undesirable. So they need to verify this. Then in addition to that, you can also say that to ensure that travelers would benefit the country economically. They would contribute positively to the economy. They would contribute positively to the economy. Then secondly, to ensure that travelers are not a burden to the government. That travelers would not be a benefit. Travelers to ensure that travelers would not be a burden to the government. Travelers should not be a burden to the government. To ensure that travelers won't be a burden to the government. So that brings us to the end of activity number 4, which brings us to activity number 5. Explain the difference between the following types of visas: a diplomatic visa and also a transit visa. So a transit visa, it is issued to travelers who stop over in another country en route to their destination, to their final destination. En route to their final destination. So it is issued to travelers who would stop over in another country en route to their final destination. Then the second one, a diplomatic visa. So a diplomatic visa, it is issued to state officials who represent South Africa South Africa, in foreign countries. At embassies or consulates. They represent South Africa in foreign countries at embassies or at consulates. So that is a diplomatic visa. Then the next one, give a possible reasons why tourists avoid countries with very strict visa requirements. All right. Tourists avoid countries with very strict visa requirements. They avoid countries with very strict visa requirements because they become expensive to travel to. Then time consuming, such countries are time consuming. The visa application process can be time consuming. Time consuming application processes. There will be time consuming application processes. Then there will be too much red tape. So they will end up avoiding such countries. There are too many, there is too much time consuming processes, and then there's also so much red tape, and it becomes expensive to travel to such countries. Then assessment activity number 6, international driver's permit. Name the requirement for South African citizens for obtaining an international driver's license. So they should have a valid South African license. That is the starting point. They should carry a valid South African license. South African license. Then there is need for photographs, 2 photographs. Then there should also be an application fee. There should be an application fee. So these are some of the requirements which are required. Explain the process of obtaining an international driver's permit in South Africa. The first thing for the process of obtaining an international driver's license. So the first thing is that you must have a valid SA license. Then complete an IDP application form. Then submit at an AA branch together with photos, application fee, and copies of the license in credit card format. All right. So these are the requirements or the process of obtaining an IDP when you are in South Africa. Then assessment activity 7, study the entry requirements for Peru below and answer the questions that follow. So the entry requirements for South African passport holders. So this is what we have. Visa not required for stay up to 90 days for tourism purposes or if in transit. However, passengers must be in possession of a return air ticket and will be able to produce proof of funds during their stay, of funds of sufficient funds for the duration of the stay if requested. There is no visa application fee required. Compulsory yellow fever. Yellow fever is actually what compulsory. Then recommended vaccinations: typhoid, malaria, prophylaxis, hepatitis A, preventative medication. So people should have preventative medication. So then two compulsory documents for South Africans to travel to Peru. So the first document, which is compulsory here, it is a valid passport. Then the second, it will be a yellow fever vaccination certificate. Yellow fever vaccination certificate. So we have number one, valid passport. Number two, yellow fever vaccination certificate. Those are the two compulsory documents. Yes. So in this case on 7.1, we are not going to include the visa simply because the visa is not required for a stay up to 90 days. So it's not compulsory. But the valid passport and the yellow fever vaccination certificate, these are actually compulsory. Then moving on to the next question, 7.2, give one reason why vaccinations are compulsory. So one reason why vaccinations are compulsory is that to protect travelers from acquiring communicable diseases. So to ensure that travelers will not acquire or they will not end up getting certain certain communicable diseases. Then another reason can be to stop the spread of communicable diseases. To stop the spread of communicable diseases. That is another reason. Then 7.2, give one reason why certain vaccinations, we have done that. Give one reason why some vaccinations are important. All right. As health precautions, they are just taken as health precautions to minimize the risk of acquiring or contracting certain diseases. So to minimize the risk of acquiring or contracting certain diseases. No wonder why some diseases are recommended, vaccinations are recommended. For example, vaccinations against typhoid, malaria, hepatitis, and so on. Then give one reason why a South African would not require a visa to enter Peru. One reason, there are good relations, good diplomatic ties or relations, between Peru and South Africa. So it is because there are good diplomatic relations between Peru and South Africa. They have a common understanding, so they do not require visas for South Africans. Or you can actually say that there are frequent tourist travelers to Peru Tourists are visiting Peru. Peru. So it can be a reason why they relaxed the visa arrangements. Then 7.3, we have done that. Travel documentation. South African Joyce and her husband David are planning a holiday to Washington, USA. Joyce would like to take her two children with. The children are aged between 8 and 11. Differentiate between an unbreached and a breached birth certificate. So an abridged birth certificate has less information. The unabridged has more details. So that is the difference between the two types of birth certificates. Then indicate the type of certificate Joyce would require for her two children to leave South Africa. So the first one, indicate the type of certificate she needs: an unabridged birth certificate. An unabridged birth certificate is the one required. Then assessment activity number 9, homework activity, teacher to check if application forms okay. This is basically something which you can do on your own. On the internet, try to Google for the B173 form for passport application. Then also try to look for the B183 form. Then you complete those forms. So this will guide you when you want to know some of the requirements which are needed when you're applying for certain documents. Then also an IDP application form. So this can be done as homework. You can do it for extra enrichment so that you know exactly the procedures which are required for this one. So this is more of a practical activity which you actually need to do on your own. Then we have assessment activity number 10, which is a revision activity. The definition, write a short definition of what you think each of the following documents or concepts are. So on the first one, you can also do that one, the passport, just to test your knowledge. The passport, the visa, the international driver's permit, the health certificate, and also the identity document. So in this column, that's where you write your your definition. Then you check it against the previous slide or the first slides which we had there. So we have the passport, basically a passport, and also the visa, the international driver's certificate, the international driver's permit, the health certificate, and the identity document. Then in addition to that, you also need the transit visa. So let's start with the term passport. This is a compulsory document. A compulsory document when you travel to another country in short terms to another country. A compulsory document when you travel to another country. Then it is issued by the DHA, contains information about the traveler, about the traveler. Then let's move on to the visa. Visa, it is an endorsement to be in a foreign country. It is an endorsement to be in a foreign country. It is issued by the embassy or consulate of the country which you want to visit. International driver's permit, it endorses your South African driver's license, African driver's license. So it allows you to drive in a foreign country. Allows you to drive in a foreign country and also to rent a car in a foreign country. Then a health certificate, it is proof of vaccination against certain diseases, some diseases. All right, identity document, it identifies the bearer, issued by government, by Department of Home Affairs, issued by Department of Home Affairs, contains information on date of birth, then place of birth, etc. All right, then the consulate or embassy, it is an office of another country in a foreign country. All right, it represents the interests of South Africa, is an example. Africa in a foreign country. The embassy processes visas of people intending to visit the home country. All right. It represents the interests of South Africa in a foreign country. The embassy processes visas of people who intend to visit the country. Then transit visa. Transit visa. It is allowing people It is a visitor allowing travelers allows travelers to be in or to stop over rather in a foreign country en route to their final destination. So it is a visa which allows travelers to be in a country or in a foreign country temporarily while they are en route to their final destination. So these are the 7 terms. So thank you very much for watching this video. It brings us to the end of the topic travel documents. I'll see you in the next video.